without any further ado, I'll give the floor to Dr. Carlos Lopez, and the Secretary General of the UN ECA and the Executive Secretary of Economic Commission for Africa, to give us his statement. I give you the floor.
Good afternoon. As you can see, I don't have a paper with me. That is because you have worked very hard, and we all have worked very hard, and therefore there is not much that I can add but to thank all that have participated so actively in this conference, and also to associate myself with the words that the chairperson is going to pronounce. I think we had a great opportunity for us to put in the agenda this need for synchrony and need for alignment between Africa's priorities and interests with the Agenda 2030 coming from the United Nations. And this was the major achievement of this conference. I think we have a body of resolutions that is testimony to that achievement. And I think we had a great time discussing intellectually in terms of policy making, policy design, a number of very interesting themes that are going to keep us busy in the coming year. And I'm very grateful that we had that opportunity and that we can go all with the feeling that we had some fulfillment in relation to our expectations. So I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, members of the Africa Forum, Chairperson of the Bureau of Finance Ministers, my brother Carlos, Ministers, Central Bank Governors, honorable guests, and delegates and officials. It gives me great pleasure to make these closing remarks following the successful joint meeting. We've had a week packed with meetings, all focused on the central question of our time, how to achieve economic transformation in order to change the lives of African men, women, children, young and old, urban and rural, for the better. Hence our discussions in our critical African priorities and skills, industrialization, infrastructure development, intra-African trade, agriculture and agro-processing. The wealth of information, the diversity of views and experiences shared, the lessons learned, the commitments undertaken, as well as the political determination garnered during these meetings are extremely useful, not only for our individual countries and institutions, but for the entire world, as these will facilitate Africa's implementation of both Agenda 2063 and Sustainable Development Goals. As we have heard so often during these meetings, that when we implement Agenda 2063, we will be implementing the SDGs as well. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that implementation on a number of priorities of Agenda 2063 and the approaches discussed in these fora have started at country levels, between countries, in the RECs, and at the continental level. So this forum of ministers is therefore going to be increasingly becoming a platform for sharing experience, but of course we also need to do more. As we therefore renew our implementation efforts, let me emphasize a few things. It's essential for African countries to domesticate Agenda 2063 and its 10-year plan with their national development plans, with beyond the 23 countries and RECs that have already started. And of course, as ministers responsible for finance and planning, your leadership is going to be critical. Secondly, there is a need to speed up the alignment of Agenda 2063 and SDGs as been said, and therefore we hope that as we go back home, this will be one of the priorities. And we must also make sure that the indicators are aligned for both frameworks. And as was discussed in one of the panels, that the indicators must be easy to monitor and align with the partners also, making sure that the partners work in a coherent and aligned manner so that we don't place an onerous burden of multiple reporting on countries. Thirdly, the success of both Agenda 2063 and SDGs can only be guaranteed if the implementation processes, the project and delivery mechanisms include women and youth. The empowerment of women and youth are not acts of charity. They are the essential ingredient to success and an imperative for our development. Fourth, the need for a mindset change. We need to continue believing in ourselves, in our capacities and the capacities of our people. It is said that when you believe that you can, you find ways to do. If you think you cannot, you find excuses why you cannot. So Africa does not lack the resources. Africa does not lack the finances needed to spur its development. It is that Africa is not using its resources effectively, not collecting as much revenue as it should through an efficient and broad-based tax regime. We are also bleeding through the illicit financial flows, and Africa is also not investing its private, pension, and sovereign wealth in African projects and sectors that can impact positively on our growth. It has been widely discussed during these meetings that what is needed in most cases is not even policy reform, but it's simple administrative improvements and diligent implementation of existing policies. Cases have been cited of simple administrative changes that have doubled revenue collections within very short spaces of time. Fifth, the importance of statistics cannot be overemphasized. Statistics have been Africa's Achilles heel. Our continent is judged, valued, described, rated on estimates and guesstimates, which are often not even ours. It is true that if we want to know our true country's worth, and as a continent and as a people, we need to ensure that we have accurate, good quality, and timely statistics. And that's the only way we can also track whether Agenda 2063 is on track. Sixthly, we must popularize and communicate at national level, at regional and different sectors in the media, our programs and our progress. Only when our people know what we are planning and what we are doing can they become involved and help shape their continent. Lastly, but not least, we must, as we implement Agenda 2063, not forget African solidarity, the spirit of Pan-Africanism, so that we can indeed work together, assist one another, and develop together. And let me conclude again by commending all of you for the tremendous work that you have done. A special word of thanks to the ECA and to my brother and his team for hosting this meeting and for jointly organizing these meetings, and for the quality of work to ensure that these meetings are a success. The rich ideas and recommendations made at these meetings are a call to action. Let us rise to the challenge, the responsibility, and the confidence that the citizens of Africa and posterity has imposed on us. Let us implement. I thank you.
Excellence, Dr. Kosama Zuma, Présidente de la Commission.
Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union, Excellency Carlos Lopez, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of our 3 days of deliberations, I note that a lot of issues have been dealt with in the course of the last 2 days. We have listened attentively to statements from member states and our distinguished panelists and guests. The discussions have been very, very fruitful, and as requested by the 17 resolutions we've just adopted, our deliberations are focused mainly on the development programs, Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Objectives by 2030 to ensure their effective implementation by states. We have noted this exercise will enable us to make savings in human and financial resources of our member states. Moreover, we have also recognized that the specificities and of various countries need to be taken into account, and the evaluation and financing mechanisms, the reporting and meeting of agendas and national priorities have been underscored. Member states have identified a number of constraints which may hinder progress. We have no other choice than to attach ourselves to the task, to put our shoulders to the wheel, and to bring about a structural, inclusive, and sustainable change. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all on behalf of the Bureau and on my own behalf for your rich contributions and the hard work done. I would also like to thank all the organizers, particularly the Secretariat for its support and its contribution, without which the success of this 9th annual joint meetings could not have been achieved. And while wishing you all a safe journey to your countries, respective countries, and your various destinations, I would like to see each state succeed. The challenge of harmonious startup for effective integration and structural transformation and inclusive and sustainable transformation for Africa's development. Thank you very much.
May we invite the media people to come closer for the press conference, please? We have the final press conference that will start any moment from now. Thank you.